Once hailed as the jewel of South America, Argentina stood tall in the early 20th century as one of the most advanced nations in the world. By around 1913, the country ranked among the top 10 economies in terms of income per capita. But that dream didn't last long. After the Great Depression of 1930, the nation's economic direction began to change. Populist policies started to take over, with the government introducing massive subsidies, price controls, and market intervention. What seemed people-friendly on the surface was, in reality, digging a deep hole for the future. By the late 1980s, the country faced uncontrollable inflation. In 1989, Argentina recorded a staggering inflation rate of 3,079%. The value of money collapsed, people's savings were wiped out, and trust in the economic system was shattered completely. More than 3 decades have passed, yet the crisis has never truly ended. Today, although annual inflation has eased, the prices of basic goods keep rising, and people's purchasing power remains weak. So in this video, we'll look at how Argentina fell into one of the worst economic disasters in modern history. Stay tuned. Located at the southern tip of South America, Argentina is a vast country rich in natural resources. From the fertile farmlands of the Pampas to the towering Andes Mountains in the west, the land is perfectly suited for large-scale agriculture. This advantage formed the foundation of Argentina's economic rise in the early 20th century. By 1913, its income per capita ranked among the world's top 10, surpassing nations like Italy, Japan, and Spain. The economy boomed thanks to exports of agricultural products such as beef, wheat, and flaxseed, which were in high demand in European markets. Infrastructure development such as railway networks, modern ports, and free public education also made Argentina a top destination for European immigrants. Over 6 million people from Spain, Italy, and Germany arrived, turning Buenos Aires into one of the busiest cities in the world at the time. But after the global depression of the 1930s, everything began to change. The economy slowed, politics became unstable, and the government relied heavily on populist measures like massive subsidies and price controls. As a result, by 1989, Argentina's inflation hit 3,079%, one of the highest in modern history. From then on, the country continued to struggle with debt problems, currency instability, and declining investor confidence. Argentina, once called the future of the world, became a warning to others. Wealth without wise management only leads to collapse. Argentina's economic downfall didn't happen overnight. It was the result of decades of misguided policies, political uncertainty, and poor financial management. After the Great Depression of the 1930s, the government implemented populist policies that seemed friendly to the people but damaged the nation's economic foundation. Massive subsidies, price controls, printing money, and taking on foreign debt became standard practice to ease public dissatisfaction. But these measures only brought short-term relief and created far bigger long-term problems. By the 1980s, Argentina was trapped in chronic inflation. The government resorted to printing even more money to cover spending. As a result, the value of the peso plunged and inflation skyrocketed. In a short time, people's savings became worthless, prices of basic goods soared, and the financial system collapsed. The crisis sparked riots, mass unemployment, and a complete loss of trust in the government. To find a way out, Argentina turned to the International Monetary Fund, IMF, for financial aid. But the large loans came with strict conditions. IMF's austerity measures angered the public, as they cut essential subsidies and made life harder for the poor. In 2001, things got even worse when Argentina defaulted on over $100 billion of foreign debt, the largest sovereign default in modern history. The crisis shrank the economy by nearly 28% in 4 years, unemployment hit 25%, and more than half the population fell below the poverty line. At the same time, foreign investors pulled their money out, and locals lost faith in the banking system. Many moved their savings abroad, causing a shortage of foreign currency and further weakening the peso. Banks froze withdrawals, panic spread across the country, and what followed was not just an economic crisis, but a crisis of trust in both the government and the nation's future. Argentina, once the world's rising star, had become a glaring warning that wealth without discipline leads only to ruin. The 2001 crisis left deep scars on Argentina's economy and its people. Although the country slowly recovered, thanks partly to a global commodity boom and a rise in exports, its economic foundation remained fragile. Beneath the apparent recovery, long-standing structural problems persisted. Dependence on subsidies, inefficient governance, and price controls that distorted the market. None of these issues were ever truly fixed. Every political shift brought new economic policies, adding more uncertainty and scaring off investors. By the 2010s, Argentina was once again plagued by high inflation and sluggish growth. Public trust in the peso continued to fall, giving rise to an informal dollarization culture, where many preferred to save and trade in US dollars. This further strained the country's foreign reserves. In 2018, Argentina once again sought IMF assistance and received a record-breaking $57 billion US dollar loan, the largest in IMF history at the time. But as before, the strict conditions made it hard for the government to maintain people-friendly policies, and the economy remained unstable. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. Argentina returned to printing money to fund emergency aid and government operations. This drove inflation up again and weakened the peso even further. Prices of daily goods surged, putting even more pressure on already struggling citizens. Despite government attempts at price controls and market intervention, the reality kept worsening. As people lost faith in traditional political parties, a controversial figure emerged, Javier Milei, a libertarian economist with a radical approach. With an anti-waste slogan, he promised a total overhaul of Argentina. Frustrated and desperate, the people gave him a sweeping victory in the 2023 election, putting him in power with a mission to blow up the system. This marked a new phase in Argentina's crisis, a phase filled with hope for some but deep fear for others. The arrival of Javier Milei as president marked a dramatic new chapter in Argentina's economic history. Many call his approach the boldest economic experiment in the modern world. Known for his fiery style and extreme libertarian ideology, Milei wasted no time launching radical reforms. He likened Argentina to a plane about to crash, insisting that the only way to save it was through shock therapy, painful but necessary measures. All forms of government subsidies were slashed, including those for transport, energy, food, and essential services. Tens of thousands of public sector workers were laid off, public salaries frozen, and funding for public universities and research agencies cut. These moves had immediate effects on the macroeconomy. In early 2024, monthly inflation spiked above 20%, but after a few months it began to fall. By mid-2025, annual inflation dropped to around 43%, the lowest in over 3 years. Economic growth also turned positive, reaching about 7.6% in the second quarter of 2025, driven by new investments and renewed confidence in the export sector. But this success came at a heavy price. Ordinary people bore the brunt of subsidy cuts and high inflation. Food prices soared, utility bills doubled or tripled, and unemployment stayed high. Within a year of Milei's presidency, nearly half of Argentina's population lived below the poverty line. Public education and research institutions were crippled. Universities cut classes, professors lost jobs, and scientists took up work as delivery drivers or ride-hailing drivers just to survive. This sparked massive protests nationwide, especially among students, public sector workers, and the urban middle class. Yet, despite the short-term pain, some believe Milei's policies are necessary to break Argentina's 70-year cycle of populism and fiscal deficits. The IMF praised the government's courage in cutting spending and reopening markets, while foreign investors began to show renewed interest. But it remains uncertain whether Argentina can maintain this stability without triggering deeper social unrest. Does progress demand painful sacrifice? And how much are the people willing to endure for a more stable future? For now, Argentina stands at a crossroads, caught between the hope of recovery and the risk of collapse.